Hey, welcome to Online Broadcast Blueprint. I'm Jeremy, and I'm really excited for our guest today. We'll be talking with Scooter, who owns and operates the Mixx of Corinth in Mississippi, and we'll learn all about that. And you may recognize Scooter if you subscribe to Radio DJ Dude, because Jeff does a tour of Scooter's studio, and it's really cool. You see the lights and the don't look too much at the lights, you might be hypnotized, but that's really cool. But I'm excited to have Scooter here with us. And if you've seen him on Radio DJ Dude, he's got a unique story, and we'll ask him about that, and also ask him about just some tips, some advice that he might have, because he's got a lot of experience. I think you said over 20 years you've been doing radio. So and if you see me typing, it's because I meant to have some stuff set up that I could put up on the screen, and I forgot to do that. So in the meantime, you guys see I'm plugging Community Online Radio Network, or CORN, and Scooter, of course, is a contributing member of CORN, and we invite you to check that out on Facebook as well. But Scooter, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the time. And we've tried a few times. We're in different time zones. We're busy. You know how that goes. But I'm glad we are getting together. So first of all, you have to tell us your radio history, because you were one of these guys that started at a very young age. So tell us that story, and what was it about radio that drew you in? I just want to hear this whole story.
First off, thank you for having me. I'm a huge fan, and I'm very honored. And the Community Online Radio Network on Facebook, it's really nice to be able to be part of a group of like-minded folks who not only will listen to your station, but will give feedback that can help improve it. So thank you again. Yeah. For backstory, my real name is Chris. Scooter is just my radio name. One of my grandmother's friends at the time, I was 13, had won a prize on the radio station during the lunch hour. And he said I could go up there with him to get the prize. And keep in mind, this is pre-social media, no YouTube or anything like that. So I had no idea what a radio station looked like. So in my mind, I had envisioned like a Larry King Live setting, a person sitting at a desk with one of these types of microphones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we go there, they bring us back and take me to the studio, and I fell in love. The mixer board, the computer, it was nothing like I envisioned, and I caught the radio bug.
Yeah.
I was able to get the station manager's number, believe it or not. I'm 13 years old. Yeah. And set it up to where I could start coming up there when I'm out of school during the summer.
Wow.
And when I turned 15, I can still remember being on the bus. The program director's name was Tonic. That was his radio name. He called me and goes, "You're not driving or anything, are you?" I said, "I'm on the school bus." He goes, "Well, call me when you get home." I call him. I got hired and started that Friday. My first job on the radio was a board op, run the controls for a live broadcast. And ironically enough, the live broadcast was for my school.
Wow.
And I find it funny. My teachers did not believe it was me, because back then I was extremely shy. As you can see, I got a red tint. That's normal. But I was very shy. But for some reason, this thing right here would make me come to life. And I've been in it ever since. I'm 35, got hired at 15. So that's a long time to do it. That's super cool. And I've got a couple friends that I've met that started, 15, 16 years old. I was like 18. So I was young, but not that young. So I do have to ask you this, though. Did like the friends at high school think it was really cool that you worked at a radio station? I'm going to tell you to answer this question. It was really strange for me, because I went from hardly anybody knew who I was to everybody. Radio was way different back then. It's like you were a local celebrity, and I signed. It was kind of embarrassing. I actually signed some autographs.
There you go.
But it was pretty awesome. I got to do a lot with the schools because of that, and they ate it up.
That's awesome. And you nailed it when you said radio was a lot different back then. And I'm about 20 years older than you are. But it was different back then too, obviously. And one of the things that's sad is I don't know if kids will have a chance to do what we did. You know?
It is sad. And you mentioned to me before we started recording that you started in 1986, correct?
Yep.
I am so jealous. I've always said I wish I could have been a DJ in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Because radio was not just necessarily different, but it wasn't a click of the mouse. You got to actually mash buttons on the board, put the old school carts in. It was fun. To me, that was the magic of it.
And I told you before we came on, I was just checking out your station. It's called the Mixx of Corinth, and you happened to play a Paula Abdul song, and that took me back because I worked top 40 from like 86 to 92 ish, somewhere around there, and of course, so we were playing Paula Abdul like crazy, and it was fun, right? And you're right. When I first started, the first station I worked at, all we had was records. We either played 33s or 45s.
Wow.
And that's what we played. And then about 88, they brought CD players in. And you know, they said, yeah, the nice thing about CDs is they never skip. I mean, yeah, right. We learned that was a lie, really fast. But yeah, it was great. So check out the Mixx of Corinth. You guys are on Live 365. And I like your mix. It's fun. It's high energy. And we want to talk about what you do at your station, but I want to ask this first. So how long were you working like on the air at that station? When did things change and transition to what you're doing now?
I've been on the air pretty much since I started. I did venture out into some other stations and then eventually just went right back. Are you asking what made me start the Mixx?
Yeah, the Mixx. And not just that, you mentioned that you voice track. You're on a bunch of stations.
Yeah.
You're part of a group that you're on a lot of stations.
Yes. Same owner. Around here, he's known as Tic Tac.
Okay.
That's his nickname. We all have crazy nicknames.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. He went from the original Wild 100.7, where we started, to for some reason the FCC switched up the frequencies and took us from 100.7 to 100.3.
Okay.
And then he acquired a radio station in Alabama and has been buying them up ever since. And it's kind of funny whenever you sit down to voice track a radio station, you have to write down what station you're on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's COVID has changed it a lot. I started the Mixx because of COVID.
Okay.
I'm going to be very honest with you, and it's okay to laugh. I came home pissed off because of the regulations that were being put in. We couldn't go to the station, etc. And had a few drinks and got to looking on YouTube, and online radio was taking off up north. And started the Mixx and been doing it ever since. It's you know, I thought I knew a lot about radio, from programming to sales, etc. But when it's on you to do everything, you learn a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us when was this? During COVID? So 2022-ish? 23?
It was 2021.
2021. Okay, awesome.
It was early 21.
Perfect.
So COVID wasn't terrible like it was at the beginning, but things had not settled down yet. Okay.
And I notice you do. Are you live every morning? Do you do a live morning show, or
yes.
How often do you? Okay, and tell me about that. Tell me about what you're doing. That's the thing. I haven't taken that leap yet, Scooter, to go live. Right. I'm trying to make. And I think this is the goal of anyone running a station, and stations that have voice track, right? They want it to sound as live as possible, but I'm still scared to pull the trigger and actually go live. So I'm just interested in how you do that, and how long is it? An hour every day? Is it a couple hours every day? What's your morning show like?
My morning show is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Wow.
Okay. And I go live, and the way I describe it It is old school radio and a modern platform.
There you go.
I do not talk as long as most morning jocks do because I do still believe people want to hear the music. But what I focus on from the morning show to the entire day's programming is what plays between the songs,
Right.
because there is an ungodly amount of ways to listen to music.
Yes.
So when people take time to actually physically tune in, we're not on the dial. They have to make a choice to either log in via phone or tablet, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You want to entertain them. So I'll do prank calls. I will do funny people. I have a thing on my website called Start Recording.
I saw that.
And what it basically does is it's like sending me an audio text. And it comes to my email. I can download it, edit it, make it sound pretty, and I can play it like a listener phone call.
Perfect. And that's a free app, I believe, right?
Yes, it's very free.
Okay.
It actually, on the website, I cannot think of it at the moment, but I'll get it to you.
Yeah.
It gives you instructions on how to put it on your website.
So it's a little widget you can put on your own website.
Yes.
People can click right on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's basically a phoner at that point, right? They could be requesting songs. They could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really cool.
Yes.
That's really cool. And someone like me that's not yet actually live, but I could use something like that, record real people calling in, add those to my liners to make it, Jeff on Radio DJ, he does that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that would be a great tool to leverage and listener engagement, all that. I love that. I think that's so fun. I think that's cool. So
May I ask you something?
Absolutely.
What's making you so hesitant to go live?
Okay, so this is going to sound really dumb. And I'm still learning. This is a learning curve. The technology thing is a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And I have experimented and gone live. And to be honest, I've used so many different mixers and things and tried it. And I had it set up about a year ago that I could go live and it worked okay. And now the way I've got it set up, sounds really dumb. I don't know what I was doing differently then that I'm not doing now, but latency is a major issue now. And I think it's a result of me using stereo tools, which I wasn't before. Okay. I just got to figure it out. And to be honest, Scooter, I haven't taken the time because I'm working full time. I'm doing other stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's a challenge everyone has. I'll get there eventually. I haven't yet because I haven't figured out this bug that I get this latency. And I think it's just a setting, how I've got it routed in my stereo tools. I think that's the problem.
That may be it. If I could recommend a mixer board, it would be the Rodecaster Pro mixer board.
Yeah, and I'm very familiar with that. Yep.
That's actually what I'm using right now.
Okay.
And it's got hotkeys on the side of the board that you can adjust at your liking. And I was gonna tell you, there is no better adrenaline rush than going live on the radio. And Live 365 runs about a minute delay. I don't know if you knew those.
Yep.
So the cool thing about it is if you're testing yourself, do a live break and listen, air check yourself.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so this is funny. I bought a little transmitter, right? One of those little mini transmitters. Guys, be careful because you can get yourself in trouble here.
Uh-huh.
You can buy a transmitter. And when I'm over in Montana, don't tell anyone, this transmitter goes like 10 miles. And that's illegal as heck. Yeah,
yes.
That's super illegal. Okay. Because what you can do, and you will hear it if you drive through town. A lot of realtors, real estate agents will use this. They call them a talking house. They have the little transmitter that's supposed to go like half a block, right? Mm-hmm. And it's okay if you do that. If you're going 10 miles, that's a problem. But my house is kind of up on a higher elevation. And I was like 10 miles away and it wasn't a great signal, but anyone within like a mile or two, they're getting me loud and clear. And that's illegal, guys. But you can't.
If you study the greats of the greats, Scott Shannon, JoJo Cookin,
Yep.
If you haven't heard these guys, people look them up on YouTube.
Yes.
They all have the same story of doing their own transmitter, building
Yeah.
their own station, and getting knocked on the door by the FCC.
Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. And anyways, when I would go live, when I would experiment, I'd go live. I had my little my transmitter set up, and I had a radio tuned in the next room over, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do my break, run to the room next door to hear how it's set. That's totally what I was doing. Yeah. So I just need to set it up. I don't have the Rodecaster. I have a Tascam Mixcast 4, which is their version of the Rodecaster. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I bought it because it was like $100 cheaper, which was dumb because it looks like the Rodecaster's a better unit. But and that's what I was using before, and it was working okay. And really, my problem started when I started using stereo tools. I think the station sounds better with stereo tools, but it's tougher for me to go live. So I've got to decide what I want to do, or just get smarter about how I'm routing it, or I'll figure it out.
After this interview, I'd love for you to explain stereo tools to me. I've watched your video, and I've looked it up. I don't know how to install it, but if you think it's causing a delay, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's a routing thing, because there are so many different ways you can route it, and I think the limitation is in my Mixcast 4 interfacing with stereo tools, I think, but I'll figure it out at some point. Let me ask you this, Scooter. What were the biggest challenges you had to launching the Mixx of Corinth?
Believe it or not, it wasn't the launching that was difficult to me. It was figuring out what format. I'm with my FM background. We have had studies done in this area of what's the most popular type of music, and I was kind of shocked. I thought country was going to be popular, especially Mississippi. It's not. It's rock, classic rock to be specific.
Wow.
But I made the mistake of thinking I want to be everything to everyone. So I put in everything, and then I got to listen. I'm like, okay, I don't want to go from Lady Gaga to AC/DC. It just doesn't sound good, no matter what imaging you put between it. So I done some research and gradually narrowed it down. The reason I call it the Mixx is because I play 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and today, and I separate the songs in those categories because I want to control the decade flow.
Right.
And you'll hear some slow songs, but I want most of them to be as upbeat, feel good, not necessarily make you want to get up and moonwalk, but feel good music.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And every hour I do it different. Like, you're not going to hear, like, say Paula Abdul kicks this hour off. The next hour, you're not going to hear a 80s song. It'll be something different.
Gotcha. So you have it pretty mixed, because I have two stations. I have Radio Valley, and that's the one that I actually make money with, by the way. It's a very generic, it's 60s, 70s, 80s, and it's mainstream. It's almost like an adult contemporary, right? Pretty mellow. And then I also play twice an hour. I play some country songs, right? Yep. So my demo is mostly female, mostly probably over 45, over 50, folks my age or older. That's who I'm listening to, right? So my own personal preference is I'm wearing a Def Leppard shirt. I'm a classic rock guy. That's my personal preference.
They're my favorite band.
But you gotta do exactly what Scooter just said, is you got to do your homework and decide what's going to give me the best traction, right? What format is going to work the best? Because I think what a lot of guys do, and when I say guys, I mean guys and gals, I think they kind of treat their radio station as their own personal jukebox, right? And I'm just going to play what I like, which is fun. I mean, we like playing what we like, but you kind of have to make that shift from, am I doing this for me, or am I doing it for the listener? Right. And so I think that's a smart thing you did, that you did some research. You're like, what should I be playing? How am I going to make this work for my folks. I think that's great. So what has the response been like? How do people react? Are most of your listeners actually local, or they kind of all over the place?
I'm getting a great response. Can I talk a little more about the program for a second?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I also separate the the 24 hours in a day.
Mhm.
I separate them into quote unquote shows. Overnight, midnight to 6, and of course the morning show 6 to 10, midday 10 to 3, afternoon 3 to 7, 7 to midnight night show. And each show I make specific jingles
Okay.
to let people know, hey, it's basically what show it is.
Right.
And I know a lot of people around town, and what I do is kind of like the listener shout out type deal. I
Mhm.
will shout out to people I know that might be listening at that specific time, or a business that's open at that time too, to try to make it more community minded. And as far as weekends, every weekend is something different. Starting Friday night, starting at 7 until midnight Monday morning,
Mhm.
I'll do either a country weekend, a all 80s weekend, a classic rock, etc. to kind of switch it up. You'll know you're listening to the mix because of the imaging, but just something
Mhm.
different and fun.
Yeah, I love
There,
that.
okay,
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
were you going to say anything else? I Let me think here. There was something meant to ask.
And I changed the music based on the show too. What I mean by that is, like during the day, normally it's mainly adults who's going to be listening. So I'll
Mhm.
try to make it a little more old schoolish, maybe less top 40 than others. In the afternoon, I might add a little more top 40 or currents, etc. So I really try to hone in on that time of the day, how I'm programming it.
Yeah, one thing you said that I think is super smart, and I've tried to do this as well, is I will let businesses, local businesses, uh, I say, send me an email. Send me an email, 20 seconds of info about your business because I want to talk about it, right? And so then I'll just work those into my liners where I'm talking about, hey, if you need someone to drill a well, this is rural Montana, northern Idaho, so things like drilling wells, running water lines, all of those things, there might be companies that do that. And so I'll just say, hey, if you need help with a well or whatever, call so and so, and I just work that in. I want it to sound as local as possible, right? To where they're hearing, everyone knows each other. Hey, I heard about Bob's business on the radio. That's exactly what I try to do too, and I think that's great. So let me ask you this. Do you use one of the Live 365 packages with ads? Meaning, do you have to play some of their ads, or did you get an ad-free package on Live 365?
I had an engineer help set it up, and the way I don't know what package it is per se,
Mhm.
but I had the option to either play their commercials or mine
Right.
because I do have actual commercials on my station from people that I've dealt with,
There you go. That's the way to do it.
and I run 2 commercial breaks an hour.
Perfect.
Both of them are around a minute 30 to 2 minutes long, and to not turn people off by hearing a commercial, I'll kick off the commercial break with a retro commercial. I'll play something like "Where's the Beef,"
Yeah, that
and
is so funny. Yeah, that's awesome.
and then after the first commercial break, I play a jingle that says, "Here's a no talk triple play."
There you
3
go.
songs back to back. So I try to make it fun.
We on my classic guitar rock radio, we do this. We play classic commercials. We do the same thing. And
Something I'd recommend to you that I do
awesome.
that I've noticed is getting good feedback as well is the commercials are not in my voice. I let the business owners do it. I literally will sit there with my phone and say, "Talk to me like I'm your best friend. Tell me about your business. I don't want a commercial. Talk to me."
Yeah,
All I do is just take out the ins and the outs and some of the breaths, and there you go.
edit it.
Sounds natural, and it relates to people more, I think.
That's a great idea, because if you listen to Radio Valley, I'm on every single commercial. It sucks. Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm one of those radio guys who I do not like to hear myself.
Yeah.
Back in the day, when I say back in the day, pre-social media, it was kind of weird to me to walk into a business. I would hear myself. And of course, people didn't know it was me unless they knew me because
Right.
all they heard was my voice. So
Mhm. Yeah.
But
So that's a funny story because the very first time, I got my first week, right? My program director says, um, okay, I want you to go a week and then we'll go over your air check. We had a little recorder right in the control room. So whenever you turned on the mic, it automatically started recording. So you didn't even have to think about it. You just put a cassette in at the beginning of your shift, and then at the end, you'd pull it out. And he said, I don't want you listening to those until we get together at the end of your first week, which was good. And I didn't. So I never listened. And so our very first session to go over the air check, I wanted to quit. I literally did. I thought I sounded terrible. I said, that doesn't even sound like, well, yeah, that sounds exactly like you. That's what you sound like. But I sounded flat, like no energy. And I thought I was being very, and so that was rough that first time. He said, no, you're new, you're fine. And he kind of helped me with that. And one of the pieces of advice, you've probably heard this, one of the pieces of advice he told me, we were in one of these stations that the transmitter was literally in the same building, right?
oh wow.
Oftentimes the transmitters are they're at another place.
Yeah.
They're up on a mountain somewhere, whatever. Our 100,000 watt transmitter was literally 10 feet away on the other side of a big window, big piece of glass, right?
Mhm.
Well, in this control room, especially at night, because I started working overnights, midnight to 6 was my shift. When it's dark, it's that window's like a mirror. So
Yep.
you see yourself. And he said, I want you to look in that window and you make sure you're smiling every time you talk, right? That was one of the best things for me, because when I did that, even though I felt like an idiot because I'm smiling really big, but you hear a smile. People
Did you
hear
stand up or sit down at first?
It's funny. At first I sat down because that's what everyone did.
Mhm.
But then the second station, the first station I worked at, great guys that worked there. The owner was a super tightwad. I didn't know anything different, right? The second station, I got a call. They said, hey, how would you like to come over here? And this was the number one station in town, and they were cool. And the station I worked at wasn't cool. It was the runner up,
It was that station.
It was that station. So when I went across town to the other station, and I worked 10 p.m. to 2 in the morning at first. I love that, man. I'd go in at 9 and do production for an hour. I'd do my 4-hour shift, go home. I was home by 2:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of normal, a lot more normal than working overnights. But we stood up. And from then on, I always stood because it made a big difference. You stand up, don't you?
I do a lot. Now, sometimes if say I'm talking to somebody live, I will sit down, but 9 times out of 10, I am standing up.
Yep.
Not just because you can project your voice more, but your girl thinks it's kind of funny. I listen to the music just as much as anybody else, so I get into the music. So, and I think that comes across. If people think I'm enjoying it, they're going to as well.
Yeah.
Funny story. I actually have the recording of my first time ever talking on the radio.
That is awesome.
I have a recording of my first show, and believe it or not, it was the guy who hired me, Tonic. He let me co-host the lunch hour with him. It was called the Retro Lunchbox.
Really cool. And awesome that this guy kind of took you under his wing when you were 15 years old and let you do that. That's really cool.
I tell people he's my mentor. He's now one of my best friends in the entire world. We talk at least once a week, and I owe him everything.
That's awesome. That is really cool. So, you said something before we started, and I said I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and that is how the industry has changed. Obviously, it's changed, but you said something about you've seen what is happening to FM leadership or listenership.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to hear what you thought about that. How have things changed that you've seen?
Okay. Before I get started on this, people, I'm the ultimate radio enthusiast, love radio. So please don't think I'm speaking negative per se, but people don't listen to the radio like they used to. it's not your source. It's not even your source of music anymore. I think technology is what changed. I think that's why online radio is starting to take off. I remember back in the day, people talking about online stations. And I remember thinking as an FM guy, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. COVID really pushed that along because people were home. Some people got bored and people weren't driving around as much. It's not normal. Excuse me. Most people today don't have radios in their home that they just tune in and listen to. So what I'm getting at is I just don't think it's listened to as much anymore. I can meet somebody new and I can tell them I'm Scooter on 100.3, for example. Never heard of me.
I don't know. Yeah.
I get more noticed right now from the Mixx than I have. And I don't know if that's because of social media or what, but FM stations just aren't talked about anymore. And I'm one of 2 actual live broadcasters still in my area as well. So that may also have something to do with it. I don't know, but I just don't see the enthusiasm for FM stations like I used to.
So you're not on a local FM station currently.
Yes,
is that correct?
I am.
Oh, you are? Okay, awesome. And
I'm on, in this particular city I'm in, I'm on 2. It's 100.3,
okay,
which is a top 40, and 93.9 was a classic rock station. By the way, I also have another online station.
You do? And what's your other online station?
It's called the Decade Jukebox. It's rock from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s.
See, that's right up my alley. That's awesome. And so the stations you work for are okay with you having your own online stations?
Yes. He actually, the other guy, Tic Tac, I'll call him by their nicknames.
Yeah.
He helps me a lot if I have programming questions.
That's awesome.
And but he's the one who gave me the mixer board that you've seen. That mixer board in that video with Jeff is the first mixer board I ever used in radio.
That is so awesome. And like, remember you talked about at the very beginning, the first time you saw a control room, you were hooked, right? I want to do this. The mixer board, to me, that's the magic. I mean, that's where the magic happened. It was all right there.
It is to me too. Are you familiar with the software Scott Studios?
A little bit, yes.
To me, Radio DJ looks
very similar. Yeah.
Another shout out to Tic Tac. He gave me 2 Scott Studios computers.
Wow.
The reason I stopped using Scott Studios is because one of the other computers started glitching. And to kind of dumb this down for people who don't know it, they have to communicate together.
Yeah.
And so I can't use it anymore. So that's why I use Radio DJ, but it is as close to Scott Studios as you can get. And back in the day, Scott Studio was the Cadillac of radio automation softwares.
Yeah, so, and you had to buy it, right?
Yeah.
You had to pay for it. It wasn't like Radio DJ that's free, and that's why Radio DJ is pretty robust for a free playout software. I love it. I think it's awesome, and I'm learning more and more how to make it work. So it's cool.
This computer is actually the Scott Studios computer, and it's meant to run. It's meant to do radio. You asked me before in an email you want to know how I used an analog mixer.
Yeah.
Part of it is because of it was a Scott Studios computer. They have a special software that helps connect that mixer to the computer, control the audio. But anybody can download the software if they have an analog mixer. It's called ASI Controls.
Okay. So can you, like, for instance, you have a Rodecaster. I have my Mixxcast 4. You can set those up. So basically the way I'm doing it, I've got my USB. So my Radio DJ basically is on one pot, for my USB pot. And then another pot is my mic, right? Then I might have a pot for something else. But could you actually, like, for instance, on a mixer board, the way it would work, I'm going way back, right? You already had a computer when you started. But when I started, obviously you'd have a pot for your mic. You might have a second pot if there was another person in the studio with the mic. You'd have a volume pot or a slider for turntable 1, slider for turntable 2, slider for cart machine 1. 4 cart machines. You have a slider for each of those. So, are you able to split it out like that, or you basically just have one pot that's your playout software, and then another pot for your for your mic? Is that all you have, or are you able to split it out? And like, for instance, you could have all your sweepers on one channel, one fader, or what kind of flexibility do you have if you're using that? What did you call it? ASI?
ASI control. Are you talking about the analog mixer or
Yeah,
the
if you're using an analog mixer.
you can assign what you want to play on each fader. Yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry to get nerdy about it, but that's what
you're
gets
good. You're
exciting.
good.
And that's what I miss, the tactile. I don't want to click a mouse, right? I want to fire it from. And can you
want to hit the on button and it kick off whatever's next.
And so can you do that with your analog mixer? Could you actually?
Absolutely. What I done, when I say I know the radio station guy that works with us helped set this up. For example, when I was using Scott Studios, fader 1, fader 2, fader 3, whatever was playing, say something was playing on fader 1, whatever is next on the screen will play on fader 2, and it just rotated constantly. That's awesome. we set up the third on button, the third fader, the on button. If I hit it, it would launch whatever's next. And also on the hotkeys, whatever those hotkeys played would be on that third fader, so I could crossfade stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just to kind of switch it up a little bit.
Yeah. So again, I don't mean to get so nerdy, but like, for instance,
I love it.
If I'm using my Mixxcast 4, if you're using a Rodecaster, typically your USB feed is everything on Radio DJ is coming through that one channel. So if you've got it automated, it's cool. This is cool as well. You don't have to fire off all your sweepers. They just will play automatically. Right. And then the only other thing I have to do is turn up my mic and talk, right? I can take it off of auto mode if I'm going to talk for a bit going into the commercials, and then hit it manually to start again. But I like the idea of having that flexibility you talked about. That's cool. And of course, no one that's worked on an old analog mixer probably knows what we're talking about, but it's cool. Yeah.
Back when radio was radio, right?
Exactly. And you know what? And I'm sure you do the same thing. It is so cool to go back and watch these. You can go back and listen to classic air checks, but the video ones are awesome, right? When you see a guy from 1978, some fat guy smoking a cigarette, to watch him, that dude, I love that. Scott, you mentioned Scott Shannon.
He's my biggest inspiration.
Oh, yeah. Scott Shannon's
awesome. That's why I do the morning zoo. It's because of him. Cool. I'm going to tell a little radio secret, and if we're all honest, we all do it.
Yeah.
we all have these DJs that we just really, really admire and look up to, and a lot of my ideas I don't copy, but I get inspiration from. Like
absolutely
Broadway Billy,
Scott
Shannon, JoJo Cookin, the classics. And it's not just because they're great air talents, but this is back when they didn't have anybody to research like we do. They didn't have YouTube. So these people had to think of this stuff on their own. And I just respect it so much.
There was a guy, he was controversial. A lot of people didn't like him. But to watch the Grease Man was in the 80s and 90s.
I know.
He was in Washington, D.C. for years and years. And to physically watch, it was just him. It wasn't a morning zoo. It was him. And he would do these long bits where he's in the middle. While he's doing it, he's got to plug in sound effects and music beds and all of this. And it was like, holy crap, how do you do that? But it was a different world back then.
There's a YouTube segment. I cannot think of the name of it at the moment, but people can search it out. It's a news guy in New York who done a segment on radio, and he done 5 parts, and he went to the biggest stations in New York. Z100. Howard Stern was big in New York at that time. And have you seen the video I'm talking about?
I think I've seen it.
And I love how not only does he talk to the jocks, but he shows them doing some of their show, shows the setup, and it kind of gives you an idea of how different radio can be, how some people do different shows. The only format I've not worked is talk radio.
Yeah.
I love talk radio. I have friends in talk radio. But it was so impounded into my head when I first started. Keep it short and sweet. Don't no dead air, and make the listeners the star. Yeah. If you make the listeners the star, you'll be huge. But even on the morning show, it's still so ingrained in me to not talk too long. that's why I don't talk as much as most jocks. So I cannot do talk radio. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
no,
at.
that's funny. We always a lot of the stations I worked at, it would be an AM FM combo, right? So you're working on the FM, but you might have responsibilities in the AM. Like I would come in on Sunday mornings and board op for like the religious shows on the AM. So I'd come in and just sit in the AM studio and have different preachers come in, and it was always fun. I always enjoyed it. But the
You said you started out overnight, correct?
I started out overnights. Yeah.
Did you enjoy coming in like the lights off, but just the board lit up?
It was yeah.
Magical, wasn't it?
Yeah, and back in the day, again, pre-internet, and I don't know if by the time you came in if this was still a thing, but a big responsibility when you worked overnights was clearing the AP wire. You had an AP machine. It was basically like a fax machine. It was a printer. It was an old dot matrix printer that just printed out news updates. And so you're right. My responsibility was to clip all the weather forecasts, because they would change from hour to hour. There was a specific, I think it was called the News Minute. I'd clip all the news minutes. And when I say clip, tear them off, set them aside for the morning guy who was coming in. So he had all the news minutes. He'd also have the on this date in history that would come across at like 4 a.m. every morning. I'd cut all. So I had a full thing, a list of things I had to pull off the AP where I had to start the coffee machine, before everyone else gets there. So all this stuff you had to do.
You want to hear something funny?
It was awesome.
Want to hear something funny? My first show was overnights, midnight to 6. But by the time I started, voice tracking was a thing. But I'm 15 and still in school, so I would stay up and listen. But here's the thing. The teachers did not know what voice tracking was. It was actually in my contract that we weren't allowed to talk about voice tracks and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So they thought I'd been up all night working.
Yeah.
But they thought it was cool. So if I got tired, they would let me take a nap.
That's awesome.
So, but I would go live on the weekends. I'd do a 10 to 3.
So I'm going to have to hit you up to see if I can get some voice tracking gigs. I think that'd be awesome. So,
you're more than welcome if you ever want to be on my station.
Hey,
I would do it. And that's an invitation to anyone out there. I'm always looking. I do this. Yes, I love radio, but I'm here to serve. That's the point of it. And if I can incorporate different voices, stuff like that, it'd be my pleasure. And if there's somebody who's thought about getting into radio, kind of nervous, I'd be more than happy to give your first shot. I'll talk you through it, give you air checks, and help you in any way I can.
That is so cool. And that is the CORN, the Community Online Radio Network. There are so many guys in there who are willing to help. If you've got a technical question, it's an interesting mix of people that do it, right? There are some that actually did radio like you and I. There's others that have never done radio, but they want to do it. And it's great. You get this cross section of people, different ages. Like if you I kind of can now because I've been exposed to radio DJ, but like it was a learning curve because I had to go from the old physical, you're playing records or CDs or whatever, to now it's all, you got some type of play out software. I never did that. I never had that when I was working radio. So for me, that learning curve has come over the last couple years. Yeah. But yeah,
I'll tell you something else I noticed. I don't know what you think about this. FM people, FM radio stations are very competitive. They don't want to tell each other secrets. One thing I've noticed about the online group is everyone is so willing to help. Totally. And to me, that's awesome. Yeah. If I was to call, now granted, I have a rapport with these other stations, but say I called an FM station I've never had any dealings with, do you think they're going to want to help me?
No.
I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way.
No, you didn't at all. But that's exactly right. I think there's a great community of online radio folks that are willing to help. Mm-hmm. And you've probably seen this, but I'll just put a plug in for it when we're talking about voice tracking. Jeff, radio DJ dude, started the radiodjmatch.com. And what you can do is you can go out there. If you got a station, you can put your station profile up there. If you're a DJ, you can put your own profile up there and match, if there's someone looking for someone to voice track or whatever, you put your demo reel up there. So it's just a great networking opportunity. So I would highly recommend anyone watching this does that. It's a great source.
I keep a actual notebook, pen and paper beside me when I'm home, and I've actually got it on my notes to go watch that video and check it out. He does a lot of great. Jeff is
yeah.
I really appreciate what Jeff and yourself are doing. You're helping pave the way in this new era. So.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. Remember 10 years ago, no one listened to podcasts. Now podcasts have exploded. And I think online radio is going to do the same thing, right? Because what we see at the industry level, in fact, the last video I watched of Jeff's was talking about how iHeart had just laid off a bunch of folks, right? So
iHeartless radio,
exactly. And so what that means, AM FM radio, that was local. That was the connection. That's where you'd hear what was going on in town.
They put the same music logs on all the stations. The only thing they change is they may make 5 sweepers and 3 jingles. That is
exactly right.
May be, so they're competitors, but they're friends. Some Tupelo stations.
Mm-hmm.
I remember iHeart came in and bought their stations out and fired everyone. And that broke my heart. Broke my heart because these are people that I grew up listening to.
I can drive. I'm on the very eastern end of Washington State. Mm-hmm. I can drive from Spokane, where I live, to Seattle, which is about a 4.5 hour drive. I will hear 4 iHeart stations, and it's exactly what you said. They're the exact same. They're classic rock stations. The same announcers, some announcer in a voice tracking somewhere in New York or LA, same announcers on all 5 of these stations. The only thing different is the sweepers. That's the only thing different. And the whole local thing, you might hear some local commercials for that market, but we've lost that local voice. And I think, and that's why I'm so big on the hyper localization thing, is we can take the place of what small town radio used to be. I think we can do that if we do it the right way. And you said it earlier, it's what happens between the songs, man.
That's the imaging. Yeah. I'll tell you another little trick, especially since you use Live 365 on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
When you're listening to it, if you click on the bottom right, like you're about to share the link, scroll down a little more and click Save to Home Screen. It will save it on your phone like an app. And I've actually got it in my settings. When people save it to their phone, it's my logo that pops up. It's the Mixx of Corinth.com, DMIXX of Corinth.com. And any of you guys who do have an online station, I'm sure people have brought up to you using apps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Save your website to the phone. It looks just like an app, the same thing, and it's free.
That is awesome. I'm going to have to follow up with you on that and make sure I'm understanding how to do that. So, Scooter, as we wrap up here, what would you say to someone they've been thinking about starting an online radio station? They think it would be cool, but they're not quite ready. They're nervous. I mean, what would you say to someone who's thinking about taking the leap?
First off, figure out why you want to do it. Is it for your personal pleasure, or are you wanting to, as you say, be a community station? Mm-hmm. After that, learn AI. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's it can be a great tool if used properly. I'm not saying replace people. Use it to enhance what you're doing. Learn AI. There's tons of free stuff. I'm sure you'd be willing to help people out. You guys can reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you answer questions. Learn AI. Figure out why you want to do it, and then choose a format that you can enjoy. Not necessarily your own personal jukebox, but one that you can get into. Yeah. Because if it's a format you don't like, you're not going to put any effort into it. I'm going to try to say this, and I think you'll understand what I mean. I think what makes me so successful in radio is I'm a fan of radio. I am the biggest advocate for radio, and I think that's helped me out through all the years because there are a lot of sciences, as you know, to programming, etc. But I like to take a step back and say, if I was listening, what would I want to hear? And I try to get in people's heads, and I listen to people. You take feedback. So that's did I answer your question?
I hope everyone heard that. What would I want to hear, right? And the only thing I would add to that is you mentioned this earlier, choosing a format, right? Being intentional about that. And I always like to say, picture in your mind who's listening, who's actually listening, who is your listener, and everything you do, you have to think, is this something that would engage that listener, right? And you talked about earlier, I don't want to go from Lady Gaga to AC/DC, right? Because not many people, some people like all kinds of music, but not many, right? So you have to kind of narrow things enough to where you know what you're doing is going to connect with whoever that listener is. And you have to figure that out, right? You have to decide who's going to be listening. What do they look like? What do they wear? What kind of job do they? I mean, I think the more you picture that in your mind, the easier it is for you to do something that's gonna engage them.
I'll bring something else up too. I'm sure if we're all being honest with ourselves, I have a hard time sometimes when programming. FM radio and online radio are two completely different entities. Yeah. And I have to kind of put myself in check to not, I want the professional sound of an FM station, but not necessarily, I don't want it to sound just like an FM station. So I do kind of struggle sometimes, and the balance between, it's a radio station, but it's not that thing that's going to play the same 10 songs over and over and over. Right. One of my biggest, Tonic had to, he told me, just try it and listen to it for a little while. I was trained, as I'm sure you were, you don't play two songs, you don't boxcar two songs. It was songs. It was basically branding the station. He said, play two songs back to back, then play a jingle. And I say jingle because that's how it's loaded in there. Yep. And I listened to it, and it doesn't sound bad, two songs blended together. So you have to kind of switch your mentality up a little bit. We all get caught up in our state sometimes, but
and I'm glad you said that, because when I came up, that was kind of the rule, is they wanted us to play two songs between either a sweeper or talking. So they wanted two, right? But never more than two.
Yeah.
And one thing that drives me crazy is I'll listen to people's station, and they'll play like 6 songs in a row, and I'm like, who am I? What is this? Who is this? What am I listening to? That drives me crazy, right? Yeah. I don't necessarily have to hear something between every song, but never go more than 2 songs. That's just my own personal opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah, because people want it. It's what's between the songs. That's your opportunity to hook people with something fun, right? So yeah, I think that's super important. Well, Scooter, we got to get together again. I think this was fun.
I really enjoyed it.
We got to do it because us radio nerds, we got to stick together for sure.
That's right.
So
we're a dying breed. We need to keep ourselves alive.
what I'm going to have in the description below, I want to make sure that there's a link, Scooter, for your stations, and everything will be there. So look for that down below, once I get it posted here. But Scooter, Chris, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks for your involvement in the community online radio group. So another plug, right? If you haven't joined us on Facebook, Community Online Radio Network, just look that up in Facebook. You'll find it, CORN for short. And Scooter's in there. There's a lot. We're growing. A lot of very helpful people are part of that group. So we invite you to join as well. Scooter, thank you, my friend. This was great. We'll do it again. And thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye.